Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, before we talk about succession planning in the civil service, we have to actually refer to what exactly should the civil service do. And in fact, that is guided by the Constitution. Section 123 of the Constitution states that the values and principles of state service include high standards of professionalism, including professional ethics and integrity, prompt and faithful implementation of government policies and administration of laws, being free from corruption, efficient, effective, and economic use of public resources, prompt response to requests and questions from the public, and delivery of service to the public in a manner that is respectful, effective, impartial, fair, and equitable, accountability for administrative conduct, transparency, including timely, accurate disclosure of information to the public, and 2, prompt, complete, and candid reporting to Parliament as required by law. H, cultivation of good human resource management and career development practices to maximize human potential. And I, recruitment and promotion based on 1, objectivity, impartiality, and fair competition, and 2, ability, education, experience, and other characteristics of merit. So succession planning obviously needs to be guided by these principles. And I think sometimes members of the opposition, when they start talking about succession planning, they actually are focused on personalities or individuals, 1 or 2, who may or may not exactly be meritorious, and earmarking them for senior positions in the organization with actually no regard for competency or capabilities. That appears to be the definition of leadership needs, Mr. Speaker, sir. That, of course, was the practice of the past. The close merit practice was subjective and disadvantaged many qualified and competent people in our workforce. Succession planning for leadership needs in the civil service much more than that. When we talk about leadership, sir, leadership needs in the civil service. We are talking about having people who espouse the values and principles that I've just enunciated from Section 123 of the Constitution. Furthermore, sir, as we can see, the Fijian civil service is grounded on the principles of high standards of professionalism. It must have ethics, integrity. That is work in progress. And we've continuously said in Parliament that we constantly are rolling out guidelines and new ways of, for example, improving business processes, making things transparent, making sure that people actually respond to members of the public. Succession planning, therefore, is about identifying the knowledge and skills required for a particular position, and in shifting the focus on ensuring there is a level playing field with regards to upwards mobility in the service. Succession planning in that sense, in the traditional sense, was if somebody is here, the next person at the next rank, and next one up there, and therefore you go progressively like a linear progression. That is not necessarily actually creating leadership qualities or succession planning. Mr. Speaker, sir, it means that succession planning in civil service begins with ensuring the basis upon which people join the services on principles of open merit, fairness, and transparency. The introduction of the open merit recruitment and selection guidelines allows those with leadership aspirations to actually apply for and be in the running for these positions, and not just a select few or those who kind of progress on a linear basis. This allows us to engage those who have a passion for leadership in the civil service, regardless of where one is from. This begins with having the right people in the right jobs. Mr. Speaker, the old mentality that only civil servants can be promoted to higher positions is outdated in today's modern context. Employing meritorious people from outside the civil service brings in sometimes fresh perspectives, new skill sets that does not actually exist in the civil service. And it allows for diversity and in turn creates more dynamic and responsive civil service. For example, one of the issues that we've talked about as we discussed with the Minister for Health today, the old way of looking at succession planning in the Ministry of Health was that if you became a senior doctor, you actually ran the hospital. So you're doing administration, which you're not actually trained for. You're trained to be a doctor. You're not trained to be somebody who's going to look after the supply of medicine, fix up the broken louvers, or making sure that the machine gets actually repaired on time, getting the servicing done. That's somebody who's probably more competent in logistics, in administration, in HR, for example. Not a doctor per se. A doctor's main focus is getting the sick patient better. So, Mr. Speaker, so that new approach needs to be adopted as far as the civil service is concerned, of course. It does not mean, Mr. Speaker, that we do not invest in our civil service. Those civil servants who are actually within the system, as you know, Mr. Speaker, many civil servants, in fact, go for overseas training. We have in-house training also. and give them exposure to many different experiences, sir. In fact, Mr. Speaker, sir, some of them are so well trained that we find a lot of them, in fact, get recruited by other agencies. And this is precisely what we actually announced in the budget, that we are going to look at now those highly skilled areas where there's scarcity issues, where there's retention issues. For example, in the civil service now too, with a lot of private hospitals opening up, a lot of private clinics opening up, they are poaching nurses from the public service. Because of COVID-19, there's a huge demand for healthcare workers, not just in Fiji, but overseas. So they're also poaching out good people too. So there's a huge movement of people, caregivers now going overseas. There's a huge movement of people globally and also regionally, sir. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, we have embedded a practice of ensuring that every position, apart from required qualifications, has clearly articulated knowledge, experience, skills, and abilities, which makes it easier to identify potential successors through an OMRS system and also identify the relevant training needs for those positions. Thank you, sir.